They lied to you. You were never fully in control of your life. You were trained to believe that your thoughts are yours, that your choices are yours. But what if I told you your subconscious has been making those decisions long before you ever thought you made them? Before you even realize what you want, your mind has already decided. And here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. If you don't take control of your subconscious, someone else will. Society, social media, trauma culture, your past. They'll feed it, shape it, use it. And you'll live their script, not your own. Most people think they're consciously in control. But science tells a brutal truth. Over 95% of your daily actions, reactions, emotions, they're not conscious. They're subconscious patterns running in the background. And those patterns, they're not random. They were installed by your childhood, by your failures, by your fears. So here's the punch. You're not stuck because you're lazy. You're not broken. You're just programmed. From the moment you were born, you were absorbing not just knowledge, but meaning. You didn't just learn words. You learned what love looks like, what pain means, what success feels like, and whether you were good enough to have it. And every experience, every belief, every emotion got stored deep inside you below the surface. And now that buried programming, it runs your life. You wake up feeling low, not because the world is dark, but because your subconscious expects pain. You sabotage relationships, not because you want to be alone, but because your subconscious believes you don't deserve connection. You procrastinate on your goals, not because you lack discipline, but because deep down your subconscious associates success with danger, with rejection, with loss. This is why affirmations alone don't work. You can't positive think your way out of a system wired by trauma, fear, and repetition. Because your subconscious doesn't respond to logic, it responds to patterns. What you do over and over again becomes who you are. And if your daily inputs are scrolling, doubting, comparing, avoiding, guess what your subconscious believes life is? Here's what they won't teach you in school. The subconscious is loyal, but it's not intelligent. It doesn't judge. It doesn't analyze, just obeys. So every time you say, I can't, or I'm always like this, or this never works for me, you're not venting, you're programming. Every word is a command. Every emotion is an imprint. Every environment is a classroom. And here's the breakthrough. If you were programmed once, you can be reprogrammed again. Deliberately, consciously, powerfully. That's when life stops being a loop and starts becoming a launch pad. That's when you stop surviving and start building. Not from fear, not from reaction, but from choice. So now ask yourself, not someday, but right now, if you could speak directly to your subconscious, the part of you that controls everything, what would you say? And more importantly, what would you start doing differently? Today, you want to change your life, then stop thinking about it. Because thinking is not enough. You don't become successful because you understand success. You become successful. You become successful because you've trained your subconscious to expect nothing less. And here's the punch that most people never see coming is your subconscious doesn't care what you know. It only cares what you repeat. That's the code. That's the language. Repetition is what programs the mind. You could listen to 100 motivational speeches, read every self-help book ever written. But if your daily language, your daily habits, your daily emotional state stay the same, nothing changes. Why? Because your subconscious doesn't respond to what inspires you once. It responds to what you feed it consistently. Think about how you learned your name. You didn't study it. You didn't take notes or quiz yourself every night. You heard it 1,000 times, over and over, until it became part of your identity. Now ask yourself, what else have you been hearing your entire life? You're not good enough. Be realistic. Money is hard. People always leave. It's too late. You didn't choose these beliefs. You absorbed them. And through repetition, your subconscious accepted them as law because repetition doesn't just teach you things. It cements them. It makes even lies feel like truth. That's why fear can feel real even when nothing's happening. That's why doubt creeps in even when you're doing great. That's why self-sabotage feels familiar even when life is going well. You've practiced those emotional states for years. And here's the thing. It works in reverse too. The same way you were programmed by accident, you can reprogram on purpose by using the one method your subconscious understands, daily repetition. Let me break it down for you. If every day you wake up and say, I'm tired, I'm behind, this isn't working. You're not just describing your state. You're reinforcing it. You're installing it line by line like code until your subconscious doesn't just believe it. It protects it. It filters your reality through it. So even when an opportunity comes, your mind won't let you see it because it doesn't align with the identity you've rehearsed. This is why successful people sound crazy to the average mind. They're not describing life as it is. They're describing life as they've conditioned themselves to believe it must be. And eventually, their external world catches up to their internal certainty because the subconscious doesn't operate on facts. It operates on familiarity. Whatever is repeated becomes safe. Whatever is safe becomes dominant. And whatever is dominant becomes your destiny. This is why affirmations matter. Not because the words are magic, but because they break the old loop. They plant new seeds. And if watered daily, they grow. But it goes beyond affirmations. It's about repetition of action, repetition of focus, repetition of emotion. What state do you rehearse daily? What future are you rehearsing without realizing? You don't rise to the level of your goals. you fall to the level of your conditioning. So here's the challenge. Don't just change your thoughts. Change what you repeat, because repetition is how your subconscious learns, and your subconscious decides who you become. Every day you wake up and you tell yourself a story. You don't even realize it, but it's there, running silently. I always mess things up. I'm not a morning person. I can't trust people. I'm not built for this. And you know what's terrifying? Your subconscious believes you, not because it's true, but because you've told it the same story so many times it became real. That's the prison most people live in. A mental cage built not by facts, not by truth, but by repetition of thought. And the worst part, they don't even know they're doing it. You see, the subconscious mind doesn't judge. It doesn't ask, hey, is this belief helpful? It just obeys. It takes whatever story you feed it, especially the emotional ones, and it installs them like software. And once installed, it doesn't just sit there. It filters your entire reality to fit the story. Because the subconscious is always trying to keep your inner world consistent with your outer behavior. If your story says, I'm a failure, then even when you succeed, your mind will find a way to disqualify it. If your story says, I'm not lovable, then even when someone truly cares for you, you'll push them away or doubt their motives. If your story says, money is evil, you will subconsciously block abundance. Even while saying you want success, it's not sabotage, it's not bad luck, it's loyalty to a story you never questioned. Most people don't have a lack of potential. They have a lack of permission to write a new story. They're so deeply married to the old one that even when the opportunity to rise appears, they hesitate because change threatens the identity they practiced for years. And make no mistake, identity is not just who you are. It's who you believe you are. And beliefs aren't built in a day. They're carved layer by layer by the words you repeat, the people you listen to, and the meanings you attach to pain. That's why you see people repeat the same relationship dynamic, the same financial ceiling, the same emotional spiral year after year. Because the story never changed. The names did, the scenery did, the age did, but not the narrative. Here's the shift. You are not your story. You are the author. But you've been acting like the character, reacting instead of rewriting. And the moment you realize that you can edit the script, the entire plot begins to shift. But it takes conscious effort. It takes you interrupting the mental dialogue when it starts. It takes catching the moment when you say, I always, or I never, and asking yourself, who told me that? When did I decide that was true? Because here's the truth. Most of the stories you live by, you didn't write them. They were handed to you by broken people, by outdated systems, by pain you never healed from. But today you can become the narrator. You can choose to replace I can't with I'm learning. I'm not good enough with I'm growing stronger every day. And no, the shift won't feel real at first. But remember, the subconscious doesn't care what's true. It cares what's repeated. So repeat something worth becoming. Because if you don't change the inner script, you'll keep reliving the same chapter. But when you do, you don't just rewrite your story. You rebuild your entire life. Let me tell you something most people never realize it. You don't rewire the subconscious through thought. You rewire it through emotion. That's the key nobody talks about, because thought alone is weak without feeling. You can say, I'm confident 1,000 times, but unless that word is backed by a state, by a feeling, by an emotional charge, it never reaches the deeper layers of your mind. The subconscious is not logical. It's not intellectual. It doesn't respond to knowledge. It responds to energy. Emotion is the delivery system. Emotion is what opens the gate. Think back. What moments shaped you the most? Were they cold, calculated, quiet moments? No, they were the ones that rocked you. Moments of fear, moments of heartbreak, moments of shame, or moments of triumph, love, connection so deep you felt unstoppable. Because emotion imprints. It brands the experience into the subconscious. That's why a child who's told once you're not good enough in the right emotional state carries that for life. Not because it's true, but because the emotion made it stick. And then the story gets replayed again and again until it becomes identity. That's also why affirmations fall flat for most people. They say them like robots. I am powerful. I am confident. I am worthy. But there's no feeling, no belief, no electricity behind the words. And the subconscious hears it and ignores it because it doesn't feel real. It doesn't vibrate with certainty. But when you take that same affirmation and say it in a peak state, when your body's alive, your voice is firm, your breath is deep, that's when it begins to land. That's when the subconscious says, okay, something's different here. Because in peak emotion, your mind becomes suggestible. It opens. That's why trauma is so sticky. That's why victories feel eternal. Emotion is the pen that writes your story into the subconscious. This is the real reason why visualization is so powerful. It's not the image, it's the feeling. When you see yourself winning, when you feel like it's already real, your nervous system starts to adapt. Your body believes it's happening, and your subconscious, it starts to prepare you to receive it. That's how change really happens. Not just by thinking different thoughts, but by feeling new emotions so consistently that your identity is forced to evolve. If you've been stuck, it's not because you don't know enough. It's because you haven't felt something different deeply, consistently, emotionally. You've been rehearsing old emotions, anxiety, self-doubt, guilt. And what you rehearse, you reinforce. So if you want to build a new reality, you have to create emotional experiences that overpower the old ones. You've got to feel your future more than you feel your fear. You got to generate the emotion of victory before the victory ever arrives. This is how warriors are built, not in information, but in intensity, in presence, in emotional repetition. You don't get there by knowing, you get there by becoming. So here's the challenge. Stop trying to think your way into a better life. Feel your way into it. Because the moment you learn how to command your emotional state, that's the moment your subconscious stops reacting to your past and starts responding to your future. Here's something most people completely overlook when it comes to mastering the subconscious. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's vividly imagined and what's real. Let that sink in. When you truly visualize something with emotion, with detail, with all your senses involved, your subconscious begins to treat that experience as familiar. And what's familiar becomes safe. And what's safe, it becomes achievable. That's why elite athletes visualize their performance down to the last breath. It's not some woo-woo nonsense. It's neurological conditioning. They're rehearsing success in their nervous system before they ever step onto the field. They see it, they feel it. And then when it's time to perform, their body already knows what to do. Most people only rehearse failure. They replay what went wrong. They rehearse rejection. They picture things falling apart before they even try. And the subconscious, loyal as always, absorbs it. It says, okay, that's the future we're expecting. And now your actions, your confidence, your tone, your energy all bend to that outcome. This isn't fantasy. This is biology. Your brain fires in patterns. When you visualize, you activate the same neural circuits that light up when you actually do the thing. So every time you visualize with intensity and clarity, you're literally rewiring the pathways that influence belief, behavior, and execution. Here's the problem. Most people only visualize what they don't want. They picture being broke. They picture being alone. They picture being judged, failing, getting laughed at. And they do it so often it becomes their blueprint. Then they wonder why they just can't get ahead. It's not that they don't want success. It's that their subconscious is rehearsing fear more than it's rehearsing freedom. And here's what's wild. If you just take 5 minutes a day, close your eyes, and start mentally walking through the version of you who's already become, not or wishing, but actually experiencing it in your body. The way you breathe, the way you walk in a room, the way you speak, the energy you give off, the calm, the power, the certainty. You do that consistently, and something deep inside starts to shift. You'll feel the difference. Because your subconscious now has a new image to work from. And it will do what it always does, move you toward it. But it takes more than surface level daydreaming. You've got to feel it. You've got to believe it. You've got to bring your whole nervous system into alignment with that future. See the colors, hear the sounds, feel the emotion. Don't just imagine success, embody it. And yes, in the beginning, it'll feel fake. Your old programming will resist. It'll whisper, this isn't you. But that's only because you've spent years rehearsing a different story. The mind doesn't accept a new narrative overnight. But if you keep showing it a vision so clear, so emotionally rich, so powerful that it drowns out the noise of your past, it has to adapt. It has to align. Because the subconscious cannot hold two opposing truths forever. So what do you want your mind rehearsing? Doubt or dominance? Fear. Or just freedom or destiny? Because whatever you visualize with intensity and repetition, you teach your mind to believe. And whatever it believes with certainty, you will move toward with or without permission. Your mind is already rehearsing something. The only question is it the life you want or the one you're afraid of? You want to master your subconscious mind, then you need to learn how to silence the noise, because that's where it speaks, not in the chaos, not in the scrolling, not in the comparison, distraction, or mental clutter you carry around like it's normal. It speaks in stillness. It speaks in presence. And most people never hear it because they're too busy running from the silence that could actually save them. We've been conditioned to avoid quiet. The second there's stillness, we panic. We reach for a screen. We play music. We fill the gap with something, anything, to avoid the weight of being alone with our own thoughts. But the problem is the subconscious doesn't shout, it whispers. And it only whispers when you slow down enough to listen. Think about it. When do you get your best ideas? Not when you're forcing it, grinding, pushing, but when you're relaxed, driving, in the shower, walking in silence. That's not coincidence. That's the subconscious finally getting a chance to breathe, to create, to speak without the noise of your overactive mind drowning it out. Your subconscious is a storage center, yes, but it's also your most powerful creative force. It's where your intuition lives. It's where your deepest wisdom exists. But it won't fight for your attention. It waits for you to shut everything else off. And this is where most people fail, because they're addicted to the stimulation. Always consuming, always reacting, always needing more input. But growth doesn't come from more input. It comes from deeper integration, from actually digesting your experience, from noticing what your mind is doing when there's nothing else to distract it. And when you finally sit in that stillness, when you let the noise die, something incredible happens. You start to hear the real you. Not the version shaped by social media, not the version pretending for approval, not the one reacting to pain or pressure, but the one beneath all of that, the observer, the presence, the quiet force that's been buried under years of overthinking. That's where transformation begins, because once you start operating from that place, you don't react, you respond. You don't chase, you attract. You don't force, you align. The power of mastering your subconscious isn't just about changing your beliefs. It's about reconnecting with the source beneath those beliefs. And that connection doesn't come from more noise. It comes from turning inward, from learning to be still without being scared, from making peace with the silence and letting it show you who you really are. You want clarity. Stop Googling and start grounding. You want power. Learn how to sit still and feel everything without running. Because the people who master silence master themselves. And once you've done that, no external storm can shake your internal center. You become untouchable, not because the world gets easier, but because you've built your foundation on something that doesn't move. So if you really want to take control of your life, don't just look outside for answers. Sit still long enough to hear what's already inside. Because in that silence, you'll find the voice that's been trying to guide you all along. And when you start listening to that voice, you stop following the world and start leading yourself. Let me leave you with this: your mind is your enemy. It's not broken. It's just been trained. But fear, by habit, by history. But the moment you decide to train it differently, the moment you speak to it with clarity, feed it with intention, fuel it with emotion, and lead it with vision, it transforms from your present into your power. The world isn't waiting for another person to complain, scroll, or hesitate. It's waiting for someone to wake up, to stop running on autopilot, to interrupt the old pattern and write something new. So don't just watch this and feel inspired. Do something. Today, sit in silence. Speak to your subconscious like your future depends on it, because it does. Visualize your life like it's already yours and repeat it until your mind has no choice but to believe it. Because once your subconscious believes, everything else starts to follow. This is your mind. This is your moment. Now take the wheel and drive. And if this message lit a fire inside you, if it reminded you of who you really are underneath the noise, then like the video, subscribe to the channel and join this movement. Because this isn't just content, this is transformation. And we're only getting started.